أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أيتها الأخوات أيها الأخوة، أحييكم بتحية الإسلام، تحية من عند الله مباركة طيبة. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I want to start by thanking the other organizers, Light Upon Light, for bringing us here this evening, the university, our brothers and sisters within the university in this beautiful mosque, and I was also impressed. I knew it before coming because it's not the first time I'm visiting the university, but to be reminded that it's 30,000 students coming from all over the world and trying to get a better understanding of not only Islamic studies but human sciences and other disciplines. We just have to acknowledge the contribution of this university and also thanking you for waiting for us. We had some travel problems, and then at the end we were able to make it. So alhamdulillah, we are here and we thank Allah for this. The discussion this evening, and just before this, you heard about what the organization is trying to do. You just got a kind of a vision from within journalism about what is happening and how what need to be done and how we have to change our way of covering stories. But now we are also dealing with reality, and Light Upon Light is trying to get some money to support students. So please, as you see them trying to get some support from you, we are in a mosque, you are listening to not only stories but our responsibility before Allah, before our own conscience, our own reality. So please support the project by giving money to this, to help these sisters, these young sisters, to get their education. That's a moral duty that we have. You came here to listen to lectures, you get out of here by supporting a project, helping people to get knowledge. That's the least you can do. Whatever you can give. Inshallah, these are sadaqat for you. As I have been saying over the last, and this is, we are leaving inshallah tomorrow, but before that, I met some of you and you are always asking about how we can be connected. Reference was made to the Center for Islamic Legislation and Ethics. We are working in 11 fields on trying to reconcile the legal tradition, the Tashri' al-Islami, with the ethical principles from an Islamic viewpoint. Meaning also what is done in this university is joining sciences, human sciences, experimental sciences with Islamic sciences, or sciences that have to do with our references. So in environment, economics, politics, education, arts, psychology, food, environment, we are trying to work. And you are students here, and you might contribute if you have papers, if you have thoughts, contribution in your field. Just be in touch. You have the website, you have also Facebook, our official Facebook page for the center, my own Facebook page, Twitter. Just this to connect. It's not only to go through the 100 signs and that's enough. This is not our way of communicating. So we need to come to the substance. So please be in touch and let us know what is and what could be your contribution. The discussion today starts from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and we knew it, we know it, we heard about it, and I will to build on it something which has to do with our reality. And you know that what is said is, the people were asking, because the Prophet ﷺ was looking forward, having a vision about the future, telling them one day you are not going to count for anything facing your enemy. This was the vision. Say, and they were asking, "Min qilla yawma idhin." It means that you are going to be just few Muslims, because they were at the starting point of, Islam was starting. So they were asking, if we are nothing in this world, does it mean that we are a few, not so many Muslims? بل أنتم يومئذ كثيرون, meaning these days you are going to be a lot. ولكنكم غثاء كغثاء السيل. You are going to be like froth and scum carried down by a torrent of water. So you are going to be a lot, but not so powerful, not so efficient. And this is the heart of the story, telling us that at the end of the day, you are not out of your number, you are out of your quality. It's a question of quality and substance. It's not a question of number. Exactly like when the people are saying, you know what, it's very good when you go to a lecture by some scholars, even when I come here, lots of people are here. And I keep on repeating, and this has been the case for 30 years now, I'm not impressed by your number. I'm not. Look, that's great, and not so great at the same time. Why? Because the quantity is here, and what we need now is the quality. And the quality is what we should understand. And to understand what is missing in the quality, you have to come to the reasons. Why is it that we are so numerous, and at the same time it's as if we are not contributing, we are not giving, we are not part of the whole story or the whole picture now in the world. And by the way, this is not new, and let me start with this introduction, 3 points that I wanted to raise to start with. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it happened that the Muslims thought, look, we are 300 and they are 1,000. We are less than them. And still, in this situation, the Prophet ﷺ and the Quran came to tell them, that's not a question of number. Even in times of war, know that if Allah is with you, nothing could happen. It's not a question of number. Trust Him as to His support. This will give you the quality needed to go and to take over numbers. So it's the quality of your faith that is stronger than the quantity of their means. The quality in you facing the quantity in them. And that's a very powerful thing when you know that today the global order, it's capitalism. Capitalism is all about figures and number and markets. Now, are you going to respond to numbers, markets, and figures by the same way? Or are you going to come with a revolution that is coming from within your understanding that the point is the substance, it's not the structure? Too many Muslims think that our answer to the dominant structure is a new structure. No, it's a qualitative transformation. It has nothing to do with the structure. It has, but that's the second step, by the way. It has to do with structure. Of course, we have to change structures, but we need to understand that structures are only coming after the substance. And you're going to be misled if you think that you change the structures, it means you change the substance. No. This is to be facing an optical illusion. It's you don't see the reality the way it was. And in this situation, they saw the Prophet ﷺ just before Badr, for example, praying. This is the quality. This is the substance. Yakfi ya Rasulullah. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was saying to the Prophet, seeing him prostrating before going to war, knowing he knew that the quality of his prostration was the meaning of victory and success. the quality of his and not the number that was behind him. It's one situation. In Hunayn, it was the opposite. The Muslims were happy. Now we are a lot. And this was the opposite answer. Don't be too happy with your numbers, because numbers are not the key factor. So you had it in one way, and you had it in the other way, and just after Badr, after the victory, what we had Uhud, and Uhud was a defeat. And why? Because in fact, they were very sincere, the young Muslims behind the Prophet. They wanted to go for it. As we won in Badr, we are going to do the same. And the Prophet was wise. He wanted to stay in Medina. They wanted to go and fight outside. And he followed the majority because he has principles. Even if I am right and the majority could be wrong, I have to follow the majority. And he followed. And they saw that he was not so happy. And they failed. Why did they fail? Not because they don't implement the principles, but in fact, they were not disciplined and they were attracted by the goods, so they forgot the principles. So they saw, oh, now we are winning. They disobeyed and they lost. A question of quality. So you win with the quality and you lose with the lack of quality, and it's a question. It's not enough to be sincere, because they were sincere in Uhud. You have to be sincere, disciplined, and committed. Are dangerous our brothers and sisters who think, let us be sincere and don't think. Allah ma'ana. وَأَعِدُّ لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ وَمِّن رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ. أَعِدُّ لَهُمْ. You have to be equipped. You have to think about the qualities, not only about your faith. It's about your faith and the way you use your mind to protect yourself. So it's a question of spiritual quality, intellectual capacity. This is the way we have to be equipped. This is it. Because this is through this that you are going to understand your duty as Muslims. So this is the first point that it's coming out of this understanding. And in fact, it's by pondering and meditating on the reasons of our weaknesses that we can get the means of our strength. I repeat. It's by considering the reasons of our weaknesses that we can get the means of our strength. We have to think about why. What is happening today in our communities, in our conscience, or the contemporary Muslim conscience and mind that is in crisis? What are the reasons? Not as people who are complaining and victims, but as believers who are believing and confident. That's the point of it. That's where we need to understand also something which is important in our commitment. In the end, he was telling them something which is important. وَلَا يَقْذِفَنَّ اللَّهُ فِي قُلُوبِهِمِ الْوَهْنَ. Allah is going to cast into your hearts al-wahn. And they were قَالَ قَائِلٌ مَا الْوَهْنَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. What does it mean? What do you mean? And he said something which is very powerful, and we have to be very careful about the way we understand that. And he said it, حُبِّ الدُّنْيَا وَكَرَهِيَّةِ الْمَوْتِ. It's when you love this dunya, this world, your life, the way you live here, and you start disliking or detesting death. To some people who heard this in the West, and some people of other faiths, even for some Muslims, their understanding is, oh, we as Muslims, we are celebrating death. That's not what is said here. No. It means something which is important, is the way we look at our life. If we understand that this life is a gift, And that we understand that this gift is given to us between two destinations. The first, inna lillah, we belong to him. Wa inna ilayhi raji'un, we return to him. In between, he gave us this life as a gift and telling us something which is essential. Know it, remember it, live by it. You belong to God means you belong to principles. And if your life is to betray your principles, it means that you prefer to stay instead of coming back to Allah, because you are attracted by this life. In fact, it means your life should be a commitment to belong to God. Belonging to God means I belong to principles. I belong to principles. So in fact, we are celebrating life with principles, and we prefer death if this life is without principles. That's what we are saying. So it's the quality of life that we are talking about. We are not celebrating death and saying, go and kill yourself. No. Live by the principles. And this is very difficult. This is your task. This is what we have to do. And never live your life without principles. And if you do this, it means that you don't like dying and you want to stay. In fact, what it reveals, the way you deal with your life, reveals the way you deal with your death. Why? Because in fact, it reveals the way you are with God, with Allah. Thus, this is the quality. So, we are celebrating life, but a better life based on principles. And this is what we have to do. Wherever we are, الَّذِينَ إِن مَّكَّنَّاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ. Wherever we are, transcendence, we are with him. وَآتَوْا الزَّكَاةَ, we serve the people. Two things, with him and we serve. وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. So we are going to promote what is right and resisting. This is the way we are in life. If we are not doing this, it means that we are lost. This is wah. This is you are كَغُثَاءٍ السَّيْلِ. You are lost, but in fact you are so attracted by things that at the end you can sit down here. You can say, oh, the West, it's about capitalism, they don't like Islam, they are so and so, and then we come to us. What is your relationship with having? What is your relationship with money? While the Prophet ﷺ said it in a clear way, لِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ fitna wa fitnatu ummati al-mal. It's going to be our test, the way we deal with money, but the way we are with power. We are very quick to criticize the world, but what about our quality of life? What about our commitment to principles? And then comes the true question. Are you going to struggle for your principle? Are you ready to struggle for your principle? Because if you are agents of peace, you have to be ready to struggle for your principles. This is the quality of life that you are seeking. This is what you are looking for. So the point here is very much to come to the reasons why this is missing in our understanding. And here, the Prophet ﷺ used a parable. He used an example by saying, carried down a torrent of water. In the Quran, it's exactly the same. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using a parable talking about our strengths and our weakness. When he say, أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا مثل كلمة طيبة كشجرة طيبة أصلها ثابت وفرعها في السماء تؤتي أكلها كل حين بإذن ربها. Saying that a tree, a good word is like a good tree, a good fruit tree. أصلها ثابت, whose root is firm in the earth, and then its branches are in the sky, in the heaven. And تؤتي أكلها كل حين, look at this, yearning its fruit in every season, but not because of nature only. Nature, it's every season. بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهَا. There is Allah's permission here, that Allah is giving to the natural order its permission. So you think it's natural, and you think at it twice, and you say, oh, it's spiritual. There is something which is the order is sustained by the Lord, by Allah. And then another, وَمَثَلُ كَلِمَةٍ خَبِيثَةٍ كَشَجَرَةٍ اجْتُثَّتْ مِنْ فَوْقِ الْأَرْضِ مَا لَهَا مِنْ قَرَارٍ. So an evil word is like an evil tree pulled out from the earth's surface, and it has no stability. What does it mean? Look at this. The scholars came to this and say, look, a tree, what are the meaning of the roots? It's your heart. الإيمان في قلوبكم. And with this we have the strong trunk. And with this the fruits are coming, and the fruits are your actions. But the good fruits depends on the quality of the roots. The fruits are visible and the roots are not. Your face is not visible, but the fruits should be. So the point here is the quality. And as to the other tree, اجتثت من فوق الأرض ما لها من قرار, means pulled out from the earth's surface. What does it mean? In fact, the strong tree has its power from within. The weak tree is in fact the object of what is coming from the winds, the rain is coming from outside, because you have no stability. So you are weak and they can do whatever they want with you. I want to give you a very simple example. You are a Muslim man, you pray 5 times a day. And you are a woman, a sister, you wear the headscarf. If your roots are strong, if the trunk is strong, if your mind is clear, whatever the people are saying about you, you don't care, because your strength is within. But if your heart is not strong, if you are not struggling with your own self to make it strong, that your power, it's a spiritual power from within, at the end, you are going to be the object of their perceptions. You want to please them. You look at what they look at. You consider what they say. That's very important. From where comes your strength and from where comes your weakness? And it's so much the case that this was said to the Prophet ﷺ, even himself at the beginning. It's in the Quran. وَلَوْلَا أَنْ ثَبَّتْنَاكَ لَقَدْ كِدْتَ تَرْكَنُ إِلَيْهِمْ شَيْئًا قَلِيلًا. If we were not to help you to be firm in your faith, you would have followed them, inclined towards them. So power is coming from where? Inside, in the relationship that you have with Him. So we can know now through the parables the reasons of our weaknesses, and all this is fine. You can sit down and say, MashaAllah, that's so true. Now we have to be practical, isn't it? How are we going to do that? Because these are very nice spiritual words, and people like this to have 1 hour of flying and saying, yes, yes, that's good. And you go back home and you are as weak as before coming here. Watching TV, listening to things that are wasting your time. Now we have to translate this into reality, and the parables here are so important. Now, there is something which is important, and there are elements that are essential. The first one is we have to be serious about educating our hearts. We have to be very serious about that. And it means that, in fact, remember the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ, he knew before he started even to spread the message of Islam that he was going to be attacked. And in fact, the first step was not to speak to them in order to please them, but to come back to himself in order to find strength in himself. In Surah Al-Muzammil, one of the first to be revealed, the Prophet ﷺ heard coming from Allah, وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا يَقُولُونَ. وَهْجُرْهُمْ هَجْرًا جَمِيلًا. Be patient, be perseverant and endurant with what they are saying. They are going to attack you. And you know who were the people attacking him? People from his own family and his own tribes. People he loved before. And then they were attacking him. وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا يَقُولُونَ وَهْجُرْهُمْ هَجْرًا جَمِيلًا. Mean exile yourself with a beautiful exile. With dignity you come back to yourself. And then you start your own education. The starting point of everything is not to expose yourself to the criticism first, but to construct yourself with your own spiritual education. And the spiritual education is your own commitment to your heart. And if we have to start, and these are not words, just be practical with this in the way you pray. You know, the way you pray, yes, you can pray 5 times a day, but you know that there are qualities in the way you pray, different of qualities. So this commitment, this dhikr, this connection that you have, talking to Allah, taking time for yourself, being far from the consumerist society, it's very simple things. Be careful with the consumerist society that is changing your way of dealing. You know, for example, it's not to isolate yourself from the people. In fact, you isolate yourself from the lack of principles of the people, but you set the principles in your life. And there are very simple things that you have to do to be disciplined in the way you pray, to be disciplined in the way you read the Quran, and to be disciplined also with your own family, communication at home. Remember that the Prophet ﷺ was very powerful outside because he was supported inside. And not by women that were only behind him, they were with him. Aisha radiallahu anha, and before this Khadija radiallahu anha, they were with him. And she was even before him to protect him from his own bad thoughts and doubts. This happened just after the first revelation. She was with him, protecting him and telling him, you are a good person. Trust yourself means trust God. Trust God means trust yourself. So this is something which is our isolation from the world, is our isolation from illusions to come to stick to principles. It's not to pray during the night and disappear all the time. It's your own exile. Al-hijra al-qalbiyya, meaning this hijra with your heart is be far from the people who are forgetting principles and start to stick with your principles. And the principles are the principles that you know that are helping your heart to be nurtured in the way you are at home. Very simple. You know, why do people don't get that? Why do we come back to the Prophet ﷺ and we listen to the way he was eating, starting with the right hand, the way he was entering the mosque? What is it all about? Just to be like, followers that are not using their mind? That's the opposite. We are using our mind to remember, to give meanings to our gestures. This is the spiritual power. So this is why when you enter the mosque, be careful. When you take your glass to drink, be careful. Remember, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. What you say before drinking, it's important, and what you drink, it's important. I have some problems with people starting to drink Coca-Cola and they say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I have a problem with that. But that's my fatwa, personal fatwa. I don't do that. Because anyway. Okay, so these are things that are very important in your life. Be careful with details, because you know what? Details are not details when it's come to quality. In fact, in the world of, can you just imagine that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you when you talk to your mother and your father, you don't tell them oof. What is oof? Oof is nothing. Huh? Go and talk to your mother and your father and say off, and if they react, say it's nothing. It's nothing. It's huge. It's huge. If you are so far from your heart that you can say with your mouth, oof, to your father and your mother, it means that you are far from him. No way. No way. No way. Whatever is your take, and sometimes you have to argue with your parents, that's because sometimes they are wrong, but with your heart, you serve them. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا. But this is, don't you think that this is a way to resist this consumerist society where your parents are not so important, where details are details because we are counting, we are not giving quality to things, we don't care with the principles. And for example, when one, the problem that we have, that I have with many people in the West today and the media covering, is this incredible calculation of how many white middle-class people are killed, and we don't care about Arabs and Asians and black people. This is a principled position? That's not. But instead of claiming this, we have to come back to our brothers and sisters in humanity and to tell them, you know what? One killed among you is the same as one killed among us. You know why? Because you and us, we are the same. يا أيها الناس إن خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى. We have the same origin, and if you differentiate, it means that you are forgetting the principles. So with our heart and our principles, you come to the causes of the problem, which is this quality which is missing. So this is where, as Muslims, in our daily life, we have to start with these details, apparent details, and start this spiritual education. But spiritual education, it's not only to pray. Spiritual education is to put meanings in everything that you are doing in your life. The way you smile at the people outside, the way you see people who are poor and you serve them, the way you see people that apparently in this society are nothing, and you have the Prophet ﷺ telling you, and this is a spiritual dua, this is the highest spiritual attitude of the Prophet, Allahumma nas'aluka hubb al-masakin. We are asking you to love the poor people, to love them, not only to give them charity, to give them zakat and that go away, to love them. Because these are to love the people who are apparently invisible and useless in the society. If you think that the poor are useless, you are lost. If you think that the poor are helping you to come to the principles, you get the reason. So you have to struggle. They are means for you to become better, because you have to show solidarity. This is spirituality. This is the active things that we need to start with. And this is something where it's very important for every one of you. Be a bit committed and get something which is lost in our education today, even in Muslim majority countries. Even here in Malaysia, there is something which is, there will be no spiritual education if you don't reconcile yourself with demanding and commitment in your life. Discipline. Inna salata kanat ala al-mu'min kitaban mawquta. Discipline. You have to deal with time. You have to deal with your principles. You have to be the people who understand that spirituality is demanding, and I start with myself. I start with myself, and I have to change my life. And if my presence here, coming from the other side of the world, is to find one person, one brother, one sister, one human being who get it, who can try now to understand that I have to change my life, this is it. It's not a question of number, because 1, 2, 3, 4 among you can change Kuala Lumpur, while 100, 1,000 you might be with I'm sorry, that's the reality. Just try to think, if all of you were committed in your personal life, don't you think that things would change? Instead of calling people Islam is a great religion, you know what? I know that Islam is a great religion. Now the people want to say great Muslims. They know that in the past we were so great. That's fine. What about the present? Where are they, these great Muslims? Where are you? And you come to some of the speakers and say, yes, my brother, you are representing us. And who told you that I want to represent you? I don't want to represent you. Go ahead, do the job. Instead of always hiding and complaining, they don't like us. And where are you? What are you making and doing? First, to be dignified in your life. And you know what? Every human being who meets a dignified human being ends up loving him. You know the Omar Mukhtar situation in Libya when the Italians were coming. He was against them. 73 years old. He was not so young as we are. Not so young. 73 years old. And he was dignified. And the guy after he called him say, are you afraid? And he smiled at him. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Go ahead, my brother. Go ahead. This is the dignified. And what he wrote afterward, that he had in his heart respect for this man. That's the man. That's a man. That's somebody. That's somebody. The social movement in the United States of America saying, I'm somebody. Are you somebody? But not somebody for them. Somebody with the rules. Somebody with what should come from your heart. This is the spiritual thing. This transformation. Taking time, isolate yourself, take time with your heart and try to strengthen your heart and your commitment and trust him, trust him, trust him. Remember the Prophet always, always, he was trusting him. While the people were, remember the story of Moses, Musa alayhi salam, in front of the sea, we are done, that's over. No, anything could happen. As much as bi-idhnillah you will have fruits, bi-idhnillah the sea will open, bi-idhnillah. But hubb al-dunya is to lose this hope. Hubb al-dunya is this, that you don't get that. That you think that it's all coming with the natural order, you don't trust him. You love this life without him, while you have to live your life with him. This is the difference. And it starts with every one of us. And these are not only words. It means that we have to change. It means that we have to come to the way we deal with that. And then we come to something which is very important. As much as we trust him, we also have to understand that we need to deal with the world according to Allah's rules, Sunanullah. And you know this, فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله. There is no change, alteration in Allah's creation. There are rules that you have to respect. So, you know the Bedouin that was with the Prophet ﷺ asking him, should I leave my camel or should I tie it up? And he said, you tied it up. First, you have to go with al-asbab. You know that you have a responsibility. Tie up your camel and then tawakkal ala Allah. Don't be a silly, a stupid mind. Allah put all this order, all these rules for you to deal with them. You have to trust him that anything could happen beyond, but as you are acting and behaving within, you have to respect this. And what are the rules? How are we going to deal with our weaknesses? The first is what I'm saying, this personal commitment. And remember that one day you are going to be alone. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, and we repeat this, and we like repeating it, as if it's for somebody else. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. We repeat this, and we repeat and repeat. It's as if we are talking about another community, we are talking about ourselves. Allah is not going to change our situation if we don't start with ourselves from within. And then come Sunanillah. What is coming from Allah? What are this? How are you going to get this strength? There is something which is essential here. And I'm talking to every one of you here. As much as it's a spiritual commitment to deal with the details of your life, you know, I'm serious. Be careful with your right hand. Be careful the way you eat. There are some people, they are fasting the whole day. The way they start eating when they are breaking their sound, their fasting is not right. there is something that, you know, you have to be delicate. You have to remember. That's a moment where you are not eating for the sake of eating. You are breaking your fast bi-idhnillah. You have to be very cautious with these details. And these details are putting some light in your life. Be careful with that. And then come sunanillah. Allah is telling us there are reasons and there are causes that you have to respect. And there is one thing which is important. The first thing is to get knowledge. Education is essential in everything that we have to do. Why? Because to be a Muslim and to remain a Muslim means to get knowledge always. Iqra bismi rabbika is the starting point. Read the word and then you have to get knowledge. We are in a university here. And you know that our first universities were the mosques. A mosque is a place where you are getting knowledge. I was going in Fajr in Egypt to get the knowledge. In the mosque with 2 or 3 of my scholars, it was in the mosque. Sit down and we'll get the knowledge. This was the university. This was where I got the ijazat. It was in the mosque. It was not sitting. So there is no contradiction. And what we are doing in our universities is great. But now, wherever you are in your life, you should understand that if tomorrow you don't have more knowledge than today, there is a problem in the way you are structuring your life. I'm sorry to tell you that's as simple as that. If you end up watching TV and becoming, at the end of the programs, more stupid than before, that's your problem. No, now we can sit down and say the West, but I'm sorry, it's you. You are colonized. You are colonized. So don't blame the colonizers to use their power because you are ready for it. You are opening your living room. You are wasting your time. So this is why you have committed. Reading books. Reading books. Stop getting all your knowledge through YouTube and through internet. Internet could be useful. Reading books. Make your mind. Start reading. Start thinking. And don't tell me, you know what? I don't like to read. And so what? You don't like to read, so you want me to please you, to entertain you on YouTube? Is what you're asking? If you don't like to read, maybe you're not going to read thick books, but at least read papers. Read, because this is the first thing that came from Allah, and you have to respect sunanillah. You are not to go to compete with others that are attacking you out of ignorance. And all the people who are saying even some governments are saying, there are books that you don't have to read. I think that we have to add knowledge to knowledge. Read and respond. We are not a community of subtraction. We are a community of addition. We add knowledge to knowledge, and if it's wrong, we challenge. And if we come to the old time of the Muslims in Andalusia, you can see how they were reading and responding to the philosophers, to the Jews, to the Christians, by knowing exactly what they meant, and reading and responding. No, what we do, we don't read, and we respond by insulting and saying, Kuffar. And we are happy with this. That's the key word. Kafir, ya kafir. And so what? I'm better than you by definition. I'm sorry, you are not better than anybody by definition. You are better in as much as you commend what is right, you resist what is wrong, and you believe in God. That's it. That's where we are the best community. Only because we are active, not because we are judges. Some people, they think that we got it. That's fine, alhamdulillah. They are thanking God to be Muslims and they don't do anything else. And some are completely forgetting praying and they fast once a year. Alhamdulillah, I am a Muslim. A Muslim, alhamdulillah, it's good to be, but to be a Muslim means to have to be committed. It's a responsibility towards yourself, if you understand that. So this is education and getting knowledge. It's important. Now, which kind of knowledge do we need? And this is what we have committed, and this is part of the weaknesses that we have. We need to get the knowledge of our religion, but we need to get the knowledge of the world. We need to know how it works. We need to get that. The people, سيروا في الأرض وانظروا. So just you have to travel, you have to get the knowledge from wherever it comes. And you need to understand, to get the means, because knowledge and understanding, these are means that you have to get. How much time do you allocate to get this knowledge? Or human sciences, experimental sciences, and then you take your principle and you get the knowledge, and you give principles and you direct your knowledge with principles. You have goals, you want these sciences to be useful for humanity. We are not celebrating agents of peace or agents of knowledge. Agents of knowledge are agents of understanding. Agents of understanding are agents of ethical use of knowledge. We are not against knowledge. We are for knowledge plus principles, goals, serving humanity. This is what we need to be. But not to reduce our horizons, because we are so scared we end up speaking about halal, haram in a closed environment, and everything else is wrong. This is wrong by definition, if I may say. So that's where we have to deal with this and understand that it's the quality of our education which is a problem. We keep on repeating things. Many of you repeat things about Islam without understanding what you are saying. We just repeat. And even with myself, I have people coming to my talks and they go and they repeat, and sometimes they don't even understand what I'm saying. But say, he said it, and I like him. And so what? Which type of education is this? If you like your brother, if you like your teacher, the best thing you can do for yourself and for him is to question him, is to check out, is to know what he's saying or what she's saying. Love is not about taking everything. We don't have in Islam blind love. Neither for the only blind love that we have is for him, for Allah. Anybody else is critical love. I love you and I have a question. That's the right way of loving. With your husband, with your wife, with your parents. With your parents, I love you, but I have a question. With your kids, I love you. And give space to your children to ask questions. And for you, you have to question. You have to be much more critical and to be able to take the good from wherever it comes. That's a critical mind. So this is education and this is understanding. And coming with this, we keep on repeating this, but it's essential. You know, once I put on Facebook a picture, and I got, wow, the Muslims were responding to me in a way, how could you do that? I just put a picture just in front of the mosque where you have, you know, I spent times with Tibetans and I went to meet with the Dalai Lama. It's a halal visit. Okay? Because some of you, what, the Dalai Lama, he doesn't believe in God, how come you can go? He has a lot, and he taught me a lot. He's the one who is waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, reciting all the scriptural sources, very disciplined with himself. And when you come to him, he's smiling, and you can feel that there is something in him. You might disagree, of course we disagree, but there is something. Anyone who is disciplined and dignified has something to give you. Anyone. You might disagree with his belief, but you can just acknowledge the dignity of the man. And many Muslims, while he is waking up to pray, are sleeping, as you know. Our relationship with time is different. He is very disciplined. And when I went there, something which was, so I forgot the point that I wanted to make with this. Yes, it's I went there and I put this picture, that's it. And the Tibetans, just before entering the temple, are putting their shoes in a way which is very, very, ordered, very disciplined. Put this and you enter. As much as you are going to pray in order, you put your shoes in order. And I put a picture in front of the mosque. You can imagine how it was. A mess. I just put this. I said, look at that. And I added as a comment, and we want to change the world. And the comments that I had, these are kuffar, as if you don't get the message. See, what is this? Sometimes with Muslims it's a problem. With our brothers and sisters, you say something, and I wonder sometimes, say, if this is the level of a comment on Facebook, what do you get in my talks? I'm not even sure that you're understanding what I'm saying. No, it's a joke. Half a joke. Half a truth. But at the end, the point is, the way you enter the mosque, the way you put things, this is so, these are very simple things. But this is a suluk. And you know why I like the very old tradition of the mystics? And once again, I kept on repeating this, that the Sufi tradition, the classical one, the true Sufi tradition is at the heart of Islam. Not what we have sometimes now, but what, our great scholars were involved in the spiritual thing. But there is something which is essential in all this tradition, is they are very strict with the behavior, very strict with the details, very strict with this education. And then the way we deal with people, the way we deal, for example, you have to be very, very serious about that. You know how Islam came to Asia? Through the attitude of the people. They were witnesses of the message. And this is what we have to do with people who are Chinese, Catholics, here in this society. Not for them, not to please them, but to be dignified, to strengthen our roots. Don't get me wrong. It's not to please the people, it's to strengthen our roots by being committed to our principle. We serve the people, we smile at people, we help the people. Whatever is your religion, I'm here to serve because I was sent following the Prophet as a mercy to the world. This is what we have to be. So this is for ourselves that we are doing it. Exactly. When you give a gift, of course it's to please, but it's coming from your heart. It's your own generosity. It strengthens your own generosity to give. So you have to give. And this is something which has to do with our religion, suluk and discipline. Now, coming from this, and I talked about this yesterday, and I don't want to repeat myself, but just something that it's coming out of this when we deal with the world. We should understand that our commitment to Islam, our commitment to our principles in this life, in order to face what could come from the people who are going to attack us, is to strengthen our own being. And the first, as I said, is this intellectual jihad. The second is something which is important. Please, be much more committed to challenge your own cultures. You have to be committed. And I was told that you are coming from around the world. There are many cultures here. There is no one single culture which gets it all right. No culture. There are cultures. I can tell you about the Egyptian one. Wow. There are much more Islamic things in Switzerland than in some of the Egyptian cultures, in the way we deal with people. Or at least as much as we can talk about the Algerian culture, or the Malaysian culture, or the Asian cultures. We have a problem. We have to liberate Islam from the cultural dress. In many ways, by the way we deal with time, the way we deal with, it doesn't mean that we don't take what is, we take everything which is good in our cultures, but we have to be much more critical. We have to be aware in the way we are, for example, dealing with our sisters. There are cultural things that are completely wrong. The way we deal with people of other colors, things in cultures are wrong. There are cultures that are nurturing racism. Wrong. Wrong. Non-Islamic. There are discourses that are nurturing things that are not clear. remember something which is important in what was said. We talked about Palestine and we talked about Israel, and we have to be quite clear. In Nasara, the Christians and the Jews are min Ahl al-Kitab, and they are our brothers and sisters in humanity. Anti-Semitism should never come out of your mouth, never. And it's the only principle that we have to keep. Now, to be critical towards the state of Israel, which is a terrorist state, yes, but no confusion. No confusion. We are not people of confusion. We are people of clarity. You are a Jew, I respect you. You are supporting a dictator, I will challenge you. You are supporting a terrorist state, I will challenge you. But you know what? I have to do exactly the same with Muslims. One of my teachers, a scholar, was great with his knowledge, and up to now I thank him for his knowledge, and he is a knowledgeable sheikh. But supporting the state in Egypt now, that's unacceptable. These are not our principles, and I will challenge them. Challenge him and others by saying, how come you can support a dictator who decided in less than 20 minutes death penalty for more than 1,000 people? How come can you support this regime? What knowledge do you have that is supporting this? You are knowledgeable, but you are distorting the essence of knowledge. Knowledge in Islam is always to be on side of the oppressed and for principles. I belong to God, it means I belong to my principles, and all my knowledge is for that. If not, I'm betrayed. So you have to be involved in this. Check your own way of life. What is cultural in your way of life? What is cultural in the way you talk to your kids, in the way you talk to the poor, in the way you talk to your wife, in the way you talk to your husband? Check that and come to Islam and liberate yourself from that. This is what we need today. And it means that we have no problem. You know, when I'm saying I'm a Western Muslim, and I will challenge anyone who is telling me, what do you mean by Western Muslims? You are Muslims in the West. No, I am a Western Muslim. My culture is a Western culture with an Egyptian legacy, but I'm taking what is good from everywhere. And there are many things that I learn in the West, and I want never I will support any Muslim in Malaysia or in the Arab world generalizing. We don't generalize by saying the West is so and so. That's not true. It's as if to say the Muslims are so and so, and you know it's wrong. Why do you do to people what you don't want them to do to you? And this is exactly what we are doing. Because we are generalizing the West is like this and they are all like this. That's not true. That's simply not true. So I think that this is also very clear in the way we deal with our principles, the way we deal with our intellectual jihad, the word that we are using, our cultures. We have to challenge this. This is where the weaknesses are. We are too much Muslims by culture and not Muslims by principles. You don't get that. So we need to be Muslims by principles, checking our cultures. We want all the cultures to improve and to be part of the process. Media, it's important. I'm not going to repeat what was said, because I think it was said and repeated. And our involvement in the social issues and in our involvement in politics should be the same with our principles. You should be in your daily life quite clear on something. I'm sorry to tell you, we can sit down and blame the West for colonizing us. But we are ourselves self-colonized by corruption. You can't just say the West, you are, dominating us. Look at what we are doing. For example, in Africa and in Asia, so many countries, so many governments are corrupt governments. They take the money from the people. They are not respecting their own people. They are not respecting the life. So you have the West doing this and playing with them. At the end, it's our business. It's us as citizens, as human beings, as Muslims, as believers to be involved in this and to stop complaining. And this comes to my second part, which is my conclusion at the same time. With all this, and understanding first the spiritual dimension. The second is our commitment to Sunanillah. So it means you have to be educated, you need to get the knowledge, you need to get the understanding, you need to deal with your own culture, you need to deal also with the environment and corruption in your society. Now, what is also important, and it's one of the reasons of our witness, so as much as we are less and less trusting Allah, we end up doubting ourselves in a way which is completely worrying and completely wrong. It's always good on an individual basis to doubt yourself and to try to find a solution. As a community now, we have to stop being defensive, apologetic, and to be like this tree which has no roots. We have to come back with our root and to be assertive, confident, to trust Him and to trust ourselves. And it starts with something which is important, the way we look at our own history. You know, if you are serious with knowledge and we deal with Muslims, the starting point of our problem in the present, in the way we look at the past. And especially just after the Prophet ﷺ, we are idealizing the past. And we are saying these scholars were so great and we are nothing. At the end, by putting all the qualities in the past, you are just facing your own weaknesses in the present. No, they were human beings as you are human beings. Remember that all the great scholars experience jail, torture. They all experience facing the dictators. And this is why they were great, they were autonomous, they were courageous. But they were facing societies where corruption was there, dictatorships was there, and hypocrisy was there. Our past is not a past, an ideal past. It's a past where people of courage and dignity and Islamic principles and human principles were committed. They were as human beings as you are, and they were committed. So we have to stop idealizing the past and then sit down in the present and say, one day, inshallah, it will be better. What about us today? And this is something which is essential. We can make it. Bi-idhnillah, we have the means now. Look at what is happening around the world. The Muslims in the West, millions, are now getting the knowledge, getting the means, getting there. And you here, you have universities and you have ways where you can get the knowledge. Stop complaining, start now doing, start being involved, and look at around you, look at what you have, instead of always having this distorted perception of what you don't have. That's the point. The point is to stop being also apologetic. Every time it comes, you know, we are under pressure in the West. Every time we have an attack, you Muslims, now you have to apologize. And I have to take a position as a Muslim. If you do something in the name of Islam, I'm going to say if it's Islamic or not. And I have questions to add. I have also to come to the true discussions. Don't tell me that we are violent by nature and by definition. We look at the reasons. What are you doing in the world? No, the people who are against the American government today, they are not against democracy and the American principles. They are against the governments and its policies and the way they are mistreating people around the world. Accepting, you know, we were full of hope with Barack Obama, the new first African-American president in the United States of America. Now, this president is using 400 more times the drones to kill innocent people and people than George W. Bush. This is the reality of it. We were praising him because we think he's going to be better than George W. Bush, which was not difficult, by the way. But this was a PR exercise. At the end, he's following a very clear strategy and the war on terror and using drones. We were told Guantanamo is going to stop, and it's still there. You know that in Guantanamo, we know today that at least 6 people there are in jail. We know and they know they are innocent, and they keep them. Why? All these years in prison and we know they are innocent, and you are telling us that you promote democracy and human rights? So we have now to raise our voice in a wise way, in an assertive way, with principles, and to stop complaining and look at ourselves and then challenge the reality of this world. In a way where we know facts, not emotionally as I am now. I'm not giving you the right example. Because I really have problems with these policies. But everything that I'm saying here is based on studies and facts, and that we have to challenge. We need to challenge. And then to stop being apologetic and to stop always being critical as to what they are doing to us. But you know what we have to do is to challenge the people with their own principles, because they are our principles. So you speak about democracy, let us see what you are doing, who you are supporting. You speak about human rights, let us talk about this. You speak about dignity, let us talk about this. Let us talk about your own contradictions. Not because we want you to fail, but we want you to be aware of what you are doing. And we have to be very cautious not to confuse the governments with the people. We need to talk to the people in a way where today, if you are scared of Islam, is natural because all what is said about Islam is bad. But we need to challenge this by something which is essential in our way of talking. As I have been repeating, no generalization as to the West or as to the Chinese, for example, or as to the people around the world or the power. And also to avoid using words that are insulting, even though now we have these cartoons and all this business about freedom of expression. We stick to our principles. We never insult, and we remember what Allah is telling us, لا تسبوا الذين يدعون من دون الله فيسبوا الله عدوا بغير علم. We're not going to insult. We know that we have a responsibility on your reactions even. This is what Allah is telling us. So it's a dignified way, assertive, confident, trusting Him, and doing what we have to do. And the last thing that I wanted to say, and it's also with what we are facing now in Malaysia or in the West or in our countries, is these people who are going and are attracted by internet. You have to be very cautious with this. Be careful with what you get on internet. The knowledge that you get and the people that are around. I was telling a story about two young Muslims who were caught in this business of going to Syria and to go for jihad and liberation. And they were in the same plane going to Turkey to go for jihad. And then they arrived in Turkey, and then they were separated in Turkey. They entered Syria, and 3 weeks later they find themselves fighting each other on the battlefield. I say, who is playing with that? It's a dirty business. They managed to come back through Turkey, went back to Morocco, and now they are in jail. In fact, these people are victims. They are victims. They didn't get the true understanding, the political understanding, and the religious understanding. So we have to be very cautious, because you have now people, women and men, who are living there, and we need to have it as something which is important. Everything in Islam starts with yourself and where you are. So your commitment is your neighborhood, is your society, is your commitment here. Even when you pay zakat, it is taken from the rich people here for the poor people here. Here in your society you have to be committed. So to all the people that could be attracted, we have to say no, no, no. You have to be committed here. Your neighborhood, your family, the poor people around you. Just pay attention to the people. Don't go and don't be attracted by this struggle, because these are not the reality. These are people who are playing. Now the complex political situation in Iraq and in Syria with the so-called Islamic State and Daesh, it's very difficult to get the final answer and understanding of what is happening. And it's quite clear that some people are pushing for more violent extremists to appear on the ground, because they are using this. We know, for example, you know in the West what is happening. Just let me tell you, because we have to be aware of that. Many governments, with the support of some Gulf state organizations, not always the states, but organizations, are pushing the agenda of having more literalists and Salafi literalists on the ground. And they are telling us, you have to be citizens and Western citizens, you have to show us that you are committed. And at the same time, they are supporting the opposite trend. Why? Because in fact, they are using them against us. They are using them by saying, look at these Muslims, look at them, they don't want to mix, this is Islam. So they are helping them in order to build the narrative against our presence. And we are asked every time to respond to this. And we are telling our governments, stop bringing this here or supporting the state to build mosques and have this ideology, because at the end it's going to have an impact on all of us. We are all going to pay the price. So there are strategies playing with trends within Islam, and we have to be aware of that. And this is where you understand our commitment. It's local, with dignity, with this confidence that we can change. Look now at your history in a positive way, but not in an idealistic way. The positive way is that over the last 50 years, this university it's 30 years old. That's it. And then many institutions are coming. We are changing things. Now we have to be committed. Don't wait for the first generation to do the job and to leave. You have to be committed now in this institutionalizing our presence in our countries, here in Malaysia and elsewhere. We have to be committed. We need to have professionalism. We need to have journalists. We need to have teachers. We need to have social workers. We need to have politicians. Good politicians with principles, but not playing only for power, serving the people. So we need to have women to speak out and to be involved. This is where we stand today, and this is where we come with addressing the reasons. And we are also to be involved in the international scene. What was said about Palestine, it's important. Don't forget that. Be the voice, and let me tell you something. You are Muslims, but you always, as a Muslim, you should be on the side of the oppressed and not only the Muslims. We need to hear your voice for everybody who is oppressed, even people who are not Muslims. Why is it that we only hear Muslims when Muslims are oppressed? What about the people who are oppressed and they are not Muslims? And sometimes even you have to speak out against Muslim governments oppressing non-Muslims. Isn't it? But we are not courageous. And this is something which is one of the reasons of our problem. حُبِّ الدُّنْيَا وَكَرَهِيَّةِ الْمَوْتِ is a lack of courage. The lack of courage. I'm ready to face, I'm ready to sacrifice. Tadhiyya, meaning I'm ready for that. I'm ready to spend time. I'm ready to face criticisms. I'm ready for the struggle. They are going to insult me. They are going to attack me, but I'm ready. And even if they want to kill me, I'm ready because I stand by my principles. That's what we are expecting. So if you come back as the last word that I wanted to say to the hadith at the beginning, you get the parable, you get that we are going to be many and many Muslims and that we are not having the quality that is necessary. Now we come to ourselves in very practical terms. What should I do for that? My commitment, how am I going to trust Allah more, is to take care of myself, to take some time for myself, and to care about the details of my life. The way I pray, the way I fast, the way I read the Quran, the way I serve the people, the way I speak, the way I serve human beings around me here and now. The way I'm committed to get more knowledge, reading books, reading papers, to get a mind, to be able to speak, to be able to understand. And then at the local level in my neighborhood to change things. Just remember one thing. One day you are going to be before Allah. Ask yourself, is there somebody in your neighborhood who can just say, in your neighborhood, I saw her, I saw him, and he gave me something. He was an added presence in my neighborhood. Are you an added presence in your neighborhood? Instead of speaking about Islam, be an added value where you are, wherever you are. The Muslim presence in the West, added value. Muslims in Malaysia, added value. If not, if you have a doubt about somebody being able to say you are an added value, you better start now. You better start now, an added value with your presence, with your commitment. It's simple, but this is the way we can change things. Who would have thought that traders coming from the Arab world are going to change and to help these societies to be the way they are today? Who would have thought that? So don't lose hope, never. لا تيأسوا من رحمة الله. If you are sinners, don't despair. And if you think it's too big, don't lose hope. That's the way. You know what? Two words when I end now. Be with Allah and always in yourself remember this. Be positive. And you know what it means, be positive? In English, you translate this into our words. You say when something is good, Alhamdulillah, and you say when something is bad, Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. And go. Do your job, inshallah. May Allah help us, protect us, love you, protect you and your family. And I hope that maybe one word, one advice that you got this evening will help you to be a better person tomorrow morning. If not,